Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In our previous video, we have seen the introduction about tuples, right? So we have seen the introduction and also we have seen how we can create tuples, right? So in this video, what we will be doing is that we will be doing the tuple indexing and slicing. So in our previous video, we have discussed that tuples are immutable, which means we cannot modify the data inside of a tuple, right? So, but we can access the data inside of a tuple, right? So that is what we will be doing in this video by using this particular indexing and slicing. So let us go ahead and see how we can access the elements in a tuple by using indexing and slicing. So to take an example, I will take T1, consider it is as a tuple 1, and inside of this particular tuple, I will consider some of the elements, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40. This is a simple example I am demonstrating to make you clearly understand what exactly we are accessing the tuples elements using indexing and slicing. So in our previous videos, while discussing lists and strings also, we have accessed the elements using indexing, right? So the same concept we will be using in here also. The index's values will be start from 0 and go how many number of element that we have minus 1. So this particular 10 is having at the index 0, 20 is having at the index 1, and 30 is at the index 2, 40 is at the index 3. So let's say if you wanted to access the elements of this particular 10, I will use index 0. So that is what I am doing now. I am mentioning T1 and I am mentioning this particular index, which is nothing but 0th index, which results the 10, right? So now if I execute this, we can able to see output we are getting as 10, which is nothing but the index 0th value. Let's say if I wanted to access this particular 30, what we need to use? This is the 0th index, this is first index, this is second index, right? So 30 is present at second index. That is what I need to use. So I need to mention the tuple name and I need to mention the index. For now, we will be using this particular second index in order to get this particular 30. So now if I execute this, we can able to see we are getting the result, which is nothing but 30. That is what we have expected, right? So let's say if I wanted to access this particular 40, what we need to use? We need to use the index. So the index is nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So we need to mention the index, which is nothing but 3. So I am taking this particular tuple and I am mentioning index 3. So if I execute this, we can able to get this particular 40. So I hope you can able to understand how we can access the elements inside of a tuple by using this particular indexing. So now what we have seen is that we have only seen the accessing through positive index. So we are mentioning all the positive numbers inside of this particular index, right? So we can also access the elements using negative index. So negative index will be started from the right. So positive index starts from the left, which is nothing but from this beginning, it go till the end. So negative index will work reversely. So it will start from the right side at this particular end and it will go till the beginning. So from right to left, it will be traversing. So the first element we will be considering as minus 1. So second element we will be considering as minus 2. Like that, all the elements will be considered. So let us go ahead and see how we can access the elements using negative indexing. So I have mentioned we can access this particular 40 using minus 1. So this is minus 1, this is minus 2, this is minus 3, this is minus 4. Like that, the index of negative indexing will be happen from right to left. So if you wanted to access this particular 40, in order to come from left side till counting 0, 1, 2 like that, we can actually come from the right side using negative indexing. So that is what I am doing now. So by mentioning this particular minus 1, we will be accessing the element at the end of this particular tuple. So now if I execute this, we can able to see the result we are getting 40. Previously when we mentioned index 3 we are getting 40, and also when we are mentioning minus 1 we are getting 40, which is nothing but the last element that we have inside of this particular tuple. Let's say if I want to access this particular element, which is nothing but 30, what we need to do? We need to mention the index. The index for 40 is minus 1, for 30 is minus 2. So that is what I will be mentioning now. So T1 index minus 2. So now if I execute this, we can see the result we are getting 30. So like this, by mentioning the negative index, we can able to get the elements from the tuple. So if you wanted to access the elements which are from the beginning, you can mention positive index, you can count from the right left side, and if you wanted to mention and get the elements from the right side, you can mention the negative indexing, right? So I hope you can able to understand. Let's say this particular tuple is having only 4 elements. Let's say you are having, let's say, 100 elements. In those 100 elements, you wanted to access the 10th element from left. So in such case, you can mention index 9. But if you wanted to access the elements which is 10th element from the right side, in such case you cannot count the elements from left side, right? So better you can count the elements from the right side and you can mention the index position. So I hope you can able to understand that. So this is about indexing and how we can access the elements using indexing, which is nothing but only one element we can able to get. So apart from this, we can able to slice this particular elements, we can able to get the range of elements from this particular tuple. So that is nothing but the slicing. So let us go ahead and see how we can slice this particular tuple and get the result. So to demonstrate you, I will take this particular I will take one more example. So let's say I will take this particular T2, nothing but tuple 2 you can consider. So in this tuple 2, what I will be considering is that in order to understand this particular slicing more effectively, I will be considering more number of elements. So for that reason, I will take 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So we are having 8 elements, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, and 80. So in order to make you understand only, I have taken so much of elements here. So in slicing, we have 3 different elements. So let us see one after the other. So here we will be having this particular same index operation we will be using, but instead of this, we will be having one more thing, which is nothing but this particular colon here. So by mentioning this particular colon, left side of this particular colon, we will be mentioning the start, which means from whichever the positions you wanted to start accessing the elements. So to the right side of this particular colon, we will be having stop. So where you wanted to stop. Let's say you are mentioning, so here I will be mentioning start, and here I will be having this particular stop. So when you mention this particular stop index, it won't stop whatever the index that you have mentioned, it will be stopped to the previous index only. Let us see with the example. So after this particular stop, you will be having one more colon here. After this colon, you will be having one more thing, which is nothing but this particular step. So what this step represents is that how many number of indexes that you wanted to skip, or how many number of indexes you wanted to travel at a single instance. That is what this step is referred. So the default value for this start, stop, and step are start. For start, the default value is nothing but the index 0. For stop, the default value is nothing but how many number of elements that we have minus 1. So till that last element it will be traveling. So this particular step default value is nothing but 1. So if we simply mention this particular colon colon, we will be getting, so I will show you how we can do that. So I am taking this particular T2, nothing but tuple 2. So I am mentioning simply this particular colon colon, and if I execute this, we can able to get all the elements inside of this particular tuple. Why? Because the start value is nothing but index 0, and stop value is nothing but this particular last index, and step value is nothing but 2. So because of that reason only, we are getting all the elements. So we can do one more thing also. Let's say if I mention this particular T2, and if I mention a single colon here, and if I execute this, still we can able to get all of these elements. So the reason is because this particular second colon is also considered as not a default value. If you want, you can mention, or if you don't want to mention, that is fine. You can get all the elements. So if you wanted to mention start and stop, you can also mention that. So like this, we can able to access the elements from the tuple by mentioning this particular slice operation. So let us go ahead and understand more detailedly by having this particular start, stop, and step with the different values, accessing different range of values from this particular tuple. So for that, what I will be doing is that I will take this particular T2, and let us access some range of values. Let's say I wanted to start with this 20 and I wanted to stop with this particular 50. So the start value is nothing but index 1, right? So 20 is present at index 1. So for that reason, I am mentioning index 1 here. So after that, if I mention this particular 50th index, which is nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I mention 4, what you can expect is that we will be getting this particular 50, but not. We will be getting only 20, 30, and 40. So let us execute this and see that. So as we have expected, we are only getting 20, 30, 40. Though we have mentioned this particular index 4, which is nothing but this particular index 50. So I will show you that as well. So I will be mentioning this particular T2 and mention this particular index 4. So in the index 4, we are having this particular 50, but when we are mentioning in this particular slice operation, we are not getting this particular 50. The reason is because whenever we are mentioning this particular stop, it won't stop at whatever the index that we have mentioned. It only stop to the previous index itself. Because of that reason, we are getting this particular result. So if you wanted to access the exact 50, what we need to do? For the index of this particular 50, we need to add one more value and make it as next index so that we can able to get this particular 50. So for that reason, what I will be doing is that I will take this particular T2 and mention this particular 1 and 5. So by mentioning this 5, which is nothing but the next index, we can able to access this particular 50 also. So if I execute this, you can able to see the result. We are getting 20, 30, 40, 50. And I hope you can able to understand the significance and how the stop works. So stop is basically whatever the index that you have mentioned, the only difference we have with the stop only. So I will take this particular same example so that you can able to see the upcoming examples clearly. So I'm taking this. So after that, what we will be doing is that we have mentioned this particular start, right? So this particular stop, right? So if we don't mention the stop, what happened? Let us see. So I am mentioning this particular index 1, which is nothing but this particular 20, right? I am telling we need to start with this particular 20, and I am not telling where we need to stop. So we have discussed the default value of stop, which is nothing but last index, right? So if I execute this, you can see all the element that we have till this particular 80, starting with this particular 20. I hope you can able to understand how we are getting this particular thing. So let us go ahead and see one more thing, which is nothing but step here. So before going to step, we need to understand one more thing here. If I mention this particular stop, let's say I wanted to stop at this particular fifth index, so I'm not mentioning the start here, I am only mentioning the stop. So we know the default value for start, right, which is nothing but 0th index. So if I execute this, so you can see the result. We are starting at 0th index, which is nothing but the 10th value 10, right? So till we are going till this particular 50, fifth value, fifth index, which is nothing but 50. So we are stopping at the previous index itself. So I hope you can able to understand the usage of this particular start and stop effectively. So let us go ahead and understand one more thing that we have, which is nothing but stop. So for that reason, I am taking first understand with the default values, right? So here I am taking the default value, and if I mention 2 here, previously by default, if I mention 1 or nothing, so we are getting all the elements, right? When I mention 1, we are getting all the elements. If I don't mention anything, still we will be getting all the elements because the default value is 1 itself. So by having 1, we are accessing all the elements inside of this particular tuple. Let's say if I mention 2 here and if I execute this, understand carefully, we are not getting all the elements inside of the tuple, but we are getting only some elements. And why it is happening, how it is happening, let us understand. Here we are having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 and 80. But here we are getting only 10, 30, 50, 70. So we are getting 10, we are not getting 20, which means 20 is skipped. One step is skipped, right? So we are going to the second value. So later we are skipping this particular 40 that will be present after 30 and 50, right? So we are again going 2 steps ahead, right? So after that we are skipping 60 and going 2 steps, which is nothing but 70. So like this, we are traveling two steps at a single index, right? So we are going for two steps. So that is what this particular step is indicating. Let's say if I mention 3 here and if I execute this, you can see we are not having this particular 20 and 13 between this particular 10 and 40, because we are going three steps at a time. So after that, we are not seeing 50 and 60 because we are going three steps at a time. Because of that reason, we are going to 50, 60, 70. 70 is the third step, right? So we are going only third step only. So I hope you can able to understand how we can access this particular element using step also. Let's say I will explain with one more example. Let's say I am taking this particular T2. I wanted to start with this particular 30. So the index is 0, 1, 2. So I will be mentioning this particular 2 and I wanted to go till the end. So I don't mention the stop. The default value is last index. So here the step I will be mentioning is nothing but 2. So now if I execute this, so we can able to see we are starting with this particular 30 and each time we are going two steps. So because of that reason, we cannot see 40 and 60. So because we are going two steps at a time. So this we are going till the end. How it is happening? Because we are not mentioning the stop, but default value of stop is last index. So because of that reason only, we are getting this result. So I hope you can able to understand how we can use this particular slicing in order to get the range of values from the tuple. So now what we will be doing is that we have seen the accessing the elements positively, right? Which means by mentioning the positive index. So let us go ahead and understand how we can access the range of values by mentioning the negative indexes. So I will start with this particular the start and stop and step. This will remains as it is. The only thing we need to convert and mention is that instead of positive indexing, we will be mentioning the negative indexes so that we can able to get the result. So now I will start with this particular simple example, which is nothing but -1. So I am mentioning the step as -1. So default value of step is +1, which will be start from the left and go right. So when I mention -1, it will be starting from the right and go to left. So now if I execute this, we can able to see we are getting the tuple in the reverse direction, right? So previously we used to have, we will be starting with 10 and going till 80. So when I mention this particular -1 as a step, we are starting from 80 and going till 10, right? So I hope you can able to understand. And let us go ahead and see some more example with the negative indexing. So let's say I will mention, and what I want is that I wanted to access this particular elements starting from this 40 and going till this particular 70. So understand carefully, start with 40 and go to 80. So we need to measure this particular 40, right? The index of this particular 40 from the negative indexing. So -1, -2, -3, -4 and -5. So I will be mentioning -5 here. So from -5, what where I wanted to go? -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. I wanted to go till this particular 70. So the index is -1 and -2. So if I mention -2, so now if I execute this, so we are only getting 40. So I will take this from here. I will mention in here so that we can able to see, right? So I am mentioning in here. So when I mention -5 and -2, we are getting 40, 50 and 60, and we are not getting this particular 70. As we have discussed previously, when I mention this particular stop, it won't go to the stop. It will be stopped with the previous value itself. So because of that reason only, we are getting this particular 40, 50, 60, and we are not getting this particular 70, though we have mentioned the index of this particular 70. So let's say if I mention -1 here and if I execute this, you can able to see we are getting the 70 also. So by this, I hope you can able to understand this particular slicing with the negative indexing. So we are getting like this, right? So we are getting from the left to right. So when we wanted to access the elements from right to left, what we need to do? We need to mention the step also. So if I take this particular T2 and if I mention -5 and -1, and also I will be mentioning this particular step. So now if I execute this, we don't get anything at all. I am executing this, we are getting an empty tuple. The reason is because we are starting from -5, which is nothing but this particular 40 and going till this particular 70, right? So we are previously going to the positive direction, because of that reason we are getting previously. So when we are going in the negative direction by mentioning this particular -1, we also need to change this particular start and stop value. So in such case, when we are mentioning -1, start will be considered as stop and stop will be considered as stop. So for that reason, I will be taking this particular -1 here and mentioning -5, and here I will be taking this particular -5 and mentioning -1. And if I execute this, you can able to see we are getting the result in the reverse direction, starting with 80, 70, 60 and 50. So why I'm getting 80? Because I am mentioning this particular index, which is nothing but -1 here. So if I want to start with this particular -2, and if I execute this, we can able to start with this particular 70, 60 and 50 and going till this particular -1, -5, and the step value will be the stop value will be reduced by -1, right? So because of that reason only we are getting this particular result. So by this, I hope you can able to understand how we are accessing the elements from the tuple. Even if you wanted a single elements, we will be using this particular straightforward approach, which is nothing but indexing, right? So we can mention the positive index and we can also mention the negative index. So apart from that, we have also seen the tuple slicing by mentioning start, stop and step, right? So we have the default values for start, stop and step. When you wanted to replace the default value with your own values, you can able to get the range of values from the tuple. So I hope you can able to understand all the concepts explained in this video. So far we are mentioning the indexes and getting the values, right? So what if I told you we can mention the value and get the index also? So for that we have a specific method which is nothing but index. So we are using this particular t2, right? So I'm using this particular t2 and I will mention the index. So I wanted to access this particular index of this particular 30. So for that reason I am mentioning this particular 30 here. And if I execute this, we can able to get the index, which is nothing but 2 here. So 0, 1, 2, right? So we are getting the exact index of this particular 30. Let's say if I want to know the index of this particular 60, I don't know the index value of 60. I am passing this particular 60 here to know the index value. So if I execute this, we can able to see we are getting the index 5 here, which is nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like this, by mentioning this particular index method and passing the whatever the value that you wanted to that you wanted to access, you can pass the value here and you can able to get the index. So I hope you can able to understand how you can access the index by passing the value. So I hope you have understand all the concepts explained in this video. If that is true, hit the like button. In the next video we will see one of the important concepts regarding tuple, which is nothing but packing and unpacking, that we will be seeing in our next video. So to stay updated with my latest videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications to all, so that whenever I upload any video you will get the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.